This episode is sponsored by Medicine Based Beauty, where beauty is backed by science. Hello, and welcome back to Cultivate CNY. I am your host, Alex Canavan, and today I'm sitting down with the dynamic duo behind Spatchcock Funk. Alex DeRosa and Matt Reed are the two masterminds behind the show, and this show is equal parts food, drinks, and unforgettable stories. With a passion for bringing people together around the table, they've turned their love of cooking into a movement that's all about flavor, culture, and connection. What started as a YouTube series has exploded into something bigger. Spatchcock Funk now airs on TV stations in Syracuse, Rochester, and even PBS stations across the country. Named after the technique of spatchcocking a chicken to lay it flat and infused with the energy of funk music and culture, the show is all about breaking bread, pouring drinks, and sharing stories that bring people closer. In this episode, we talk about their journeys from digital marketing to the kitchen, their favorite flavors and cooking techniques, and how Spatchcock Funk is redefining food and party culture. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. Alex DeRosa, Matt Reed, welcome to Cultivate CNY.
How you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Great. I'm pumped to be here. This place is beautiful.
It's a pleasure to have you both on. I was really looking forward to this conversation just because I feel like it's going to be a fun one. You guys are really fun people. And what you guys do is also very fun.
A lot of pressure there, yeah.
You kind of party for a living, don't you?
Yeah, I guess.
That's the idea, yeah. We're trying to, at least. But yeah, we like to throw parties with our friends and hang out and film it along the way. And we try to get that vibe across that, like, we're both, it's two friends hanging out, throwing parties, and I guess teaching people how to hang out and making sure they make time for their friends and family, which is a key part of our show.
Which is so important. I was scrolling TikTok yesterday, and there was a TikTok, I think it was released by Variety, and a journalist was talking about how nobody throws parties anymore. There's like a party epidemic, and it was basically a TikTok about how the number of parties that people would host has dropped significantly since like 2007.
That makes sense.
And it's only like 4% of Americans hosted a party in 2024.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? It's like it's holidays come by and everyone's so busy and they make everything, they're like quickly and get it together to have everybody over, and it's a rush and it's like, oh my God, thank God it's over. But it's like all year round you can do that, and everybody's so busy with their jobs and stuff. And so our show is meant to give people a reason, like don't wait for the holidays. So there's no holiday themed episodes, there's no Christmas, there's no this, because the whole point is that you can do this year round. And so a lot of our episodes are themed around just having fun with your friends, and it could be 4 people, 10 people, 20 people, or even 50, 60 that we try to throw here and there.
But we've had a couple of big ones, but also I think with the lack of partying, the pandemic kind of hurts that. But I think people, for some reason, are like, oh, I should be doing something else. And it's like, no, like, what better time to spend than spending it with people that you want to spend that time with? And we also focus on, our show is able to be fun, at least I think it is, and thankfully our viewers do, because we make some off-color jokes and things like that, but we are able to do that because we put a theme into it, right? Like we have one called the Boss Bitch Brunch, which is about breaking the glass ceiling and talking about women empowerment, right? But when you're able to do that or talk about body positivity, then you can come in the back door with some racy material. But the idea of it is being together with other people isn't just an excuse to get hammered, though. I mean, who am I to judge, because I actually take advantage of that excuse regularly. But it's a time to celebrate other people and be like, man, she's so interesting. I didn't realize he liked that. I didn't know that this was part of that belief system. And then it kind of rolls into celebrating these people. And to me, that's what a party's about, the people that you're with.
Yeah, and I honestly think that a lot of people just overcomplicate it. I mean, I don't know about you, but my timeline and For You page is just full of these, beautiful tablescapes and aesthetic, like, hosting parties, probably because I'm on like Martha Stewart talk, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. It doesn't have to be like this super fancy or formal situation. Like, go to Wegmans, pick up their mac and cheese, get some paper plates, bring the people over.
It's about the activity and the friends, the family. Like you just the food, obviously we're about the food and
Yeah.
we'll up level the food quite a bit and the cocktails, but you don't have to do all that. You just have to eventually everybody eats and then everybody's hanging out. The majority of the party is spent hanging out. It's not necessarily eating.
There are basics though that I think a lot of people don't get when throwing parties, and um, if you don't already realize this, you might hear this and now it's going to be stuck in your head. A party has to have music, a playlist. Like I'll be somewhere and like at a party and be like, oh, this is cool, the vibe's all right. And then I realize there's no music playing. So it doesn't have to be doing, I mean, we create custom playlists for our parties, but just, I don't know, throw on 93Q, throw on anything so you have that in the background. And, you know, inviting people is also important. People are like, oh, I'm gonna have a party, nobody came. We didn't invite anybody. Like you posted it on Facebook, like, hey, if you're around, come over Friday. You have to actively say, hey, what are you doing Friday night? You should come over. I'm having some girls over. We're gonna crack some bottles of wine. Those are two things I think people forget a lot. But actively inviting someone, and then after you invite them, be like, hey, isn't it so great? Like take that into account and keep them engaged.
Are there any other hosting tips you guys have now that we're on this topic?
That's a great question. I think one, cocktails, like make sure there's drinks for everybody. If you're serving drinks, like we have a signature cocktail and we theme it. I mean, we like to theme everything, right? So music's important, but the theme of the party, the food, everything, we keep it in line. Making, I don't know, food for everyone as well. Like we have a lot of
We'll
we have a lot of different food types. Like we have seafood and different things, and we want to make sure everybody can eat. Like
So we'll have
it's not-
mocktails, like a vegetarian option, and be aware of the people that are coming to it. But there's some basic things too, like have some garbage cans set up, bro. You know what I mean?
I feel like that is something everyone forgets about, is the
Totally.
garbage cans.
Absolutely.
You spend your whole party emptying the garbage because you have this little trash can. Yeah. When we're on, we do a lot of party outside on boats and things like that. And so, you know, plastic. We always talk about bring plastic, not glass. No one wants to step on broken glass while they're in the water or whatever. So we have, through our episodes, we feed these little tips in, which come as a pop up with my head on it. Kind of
It's
like
my favorite part of the show.
Kind of like the
Except
good
half
angel
of
on
them
his shoulder.
are made to make fun of me the entire time.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It is my favorite part of the show. But preparing for a party too, like figure out how many people you're expecting to come and know that, right? But there's a lot of food and cocktails. Like you can pre-batch a cocktail, a mocktail. You can get food ready that you slide into the oven. Like there's so many things you can do ahead of the time that saves you time so you're at the party, because as someone that throws a lot of parties, it's tough to be sitting there the entire time, hearing the party go on, and you're like at the stove the entire time.
You're always making food.
Yeah,
and you're always
it's a struggle.
prepping stuff. Yeah.
And then you'll never want to host a party again.
Right, totally.
Because
And you'll be
You did
cleaning
not
up
enjoy it.
after, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad everybody left. Like, that's not what you want. You want everything ready. You just hang out and enjoy people.
Like you want to get to the point where all of a sudden, you know, you're going to have people over till like 11 o'clock at night, and then all of a sudden it's like 1:30 in the morning. You're like, when are these people leaving my house? Like that's a good.
Or make a plan, like at this time, we're all leaving here, going somewhere else.
Yeah,
Get everybody out of
that's a
your
great
house,
tip
yeah.
too. That's a great tip too.
So I want to know how this concept came about. How did you guys decide that you wanted to create Spatchcock Funk? And also, how did you guys meet? Like, how did you guys know that you wanted to partner with each other?
So the story of how we met is a interesting one that we've told a couple times. Matt's version is different than mine, but we met through a mutual friend, and we joined a softball team together. So we played softball for years together. And the day we met, Matt was actually helping me and my friend Ryan take down a sign somewhere. We were taking down a sign that belonged to us, and Matt was just
The
sitting
question
in the car.
was whether or not it belonged to him or not. So the meet cute story, this is where there's debate. I show up and these dudes, they're like, can you help us?
You
do
didn't
this
show up.
thing?"
You were just sitting in the car, not
Well,
helping.
before that, Ryan's like, hey, do you want to come along? And I'm like, okay. So I get there and I'm like, what are you doing? And basically it seemed as though they were stealing a sign off of a building.
That was ours. So we were taking this sign down. It was actually my mother-in-law's. She had a daycare, and she's like, I really want this sign. I paid for it. And it was just, no one could get it down. That was the problem. So we're like, we'll get it
But you
down.
had like lookouts
We
on
had
the
permission
corner.
to get
was
it
kinda
down.
Weird.
We had permission to get it down. So he just shows up, and the whole time he's in the car just making fun of us, heckling us. Like, and I'm like, Ryan, who is this guy? Why did you bring him? Like, you're on a ladder. I'm trying to yell up to you. Like, he's just yelling at us. So that was it. Like, we met, and I was like, cool, nice to meet you. Went on our ways. That night we met again. I was meeting one of my celebrity baseball players.
He
He
had
was
a
at Coleman's
big,
that night.
big man
playing with
crush
you.
on this
No,
baseball
I just
player
was
at the
I
time.
was a fan and wanted to meet him, and Matt shows up again, and I'm like, oh here he goes.
This guy.
He's gonna ruin my moment.
Yeah. And I was
tried to
all
ruin
I
his
was
moment.
trying to do. And I'm not gonna go over there and be like, oh my God. All I want to do is like meet him and that's it.
You want to meet him in like a casual, authentic way.
Yes. I
Yeah.
wasn't trying to like maybe a picture, that's it. And so Matt made such a big deal out of it. Went over to him first, said, here's your biggest fan. Oh my God, he wants to hug you. All that, like, just
He wants you to sign his chest. Like,
yeah, like
here's
made a big
Sharpie.
ordeal about it. Made it embarrassing to the fact that he didn't really even want to do it because he was, and so that was my second interaction with that.
Just ruined it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after all that, we joined this team together and played softball for years, threw a lot of parties for Nibsy's Pub, softball smokers, and I think with that and SU tailgating, we just started to throw a lot of kind of fun parties. And they were different than everybody else. Everybody wanted to come to the tailgate, wanted to come to our Nibsy's parties. And I had a video background. He had a cooking background. We both, I would grill, I would smoke meat and stuff. So we both had that
You're a good
background.
smoker.
But we just kind of were like, we should just start filming these. It was just kind of it was in between a food truck and filming content. And Matt's personality was great for it. And so we're like, right around really the pandemic, like shortly before we just started to do it, we're like, let's just try it. And did it in Matt's garage.
Yeah. And we would throw these parties that people would say like, oh man, this would be a cool show. Like one was called the Top 6 Party. So everyone would bring like a flash drive or something with their top 6 songs. And on the wall, you would like write like a Post-it note with your 6 songs. So all of a sudden you hear something. Remember my friend Dunk, her real name is Sarah. One of the songs on her list was When the Levee Breaks by Led Zeppelin, which is obviously an absolute banger. But if you meet her and she's so awesome, it doesn't really fit. Like you wouldn't guess that would be one of her favorite songs. So it created all these micro interactions. So we would do stuff like that. But the formation of the show though is so funny because when we first did it, we shot one in Alex's kitchen that it was. When we did it, we're like, oh, this is so good. Now we look at it like, this is a nightmare. Like
It's like 45 minutes long.
someone should like take a computer away from us after that. But then we started posting. We're like, okay, if 100 people watch this, we'll make another one. And then 500 people watched it, and then 250. And then the way it kept working was we started getting that weird proof of concept where more people were watching our video than people that we knew, right? So like at that point, it's one thing if you get 50 likes on an Instagram post, that's cool, but like it's your grandma and your coworker and all these things. But all of a sudden we're seeing some numbers and we're like, I don't think combined we know these many people. So that was
It's like any business you run. If you have a restaurant or something, you have all your friends and family come when it opens, and eventually there's going to be a dip. No one's, you're going to need new customers. And for us, Matt and his wife Stephanie, they know a lot of people, and so like there was a lot of people that were watching this show, and we're like, oh, of course, right? They want to watch. They're supporting it. They're clicking. It's entertaining. And then we had this opportunity with CNY Central, and it was just kind of a fluke opportunity. They wanted a cooking segment for their morning show on Sundays. And with all the news and all the kind of bad news out there, they wanted something lighthearted to show every morning. And so we're like, sure, we'll do it. And I think the first one was, because it was COVID, it was over Skype, which it was
Skype.
It's funny to say Skype because everybody used to Zoom now. But like at that point, I've never used Skype at that point. I think we were trying to figure that out. And so we were on his back porch and there was flies everywhere because we just couldn't control them. And we're like, I wonder if she can see these flies. And like, I could see them. And I was like, they're definitely here. And she made the best of it. We made the best of it. And we're like, wow, that was cool. We'll never be invited back. And
Yeah.
she's like, well, you guys want to do this every week? And we're like, we'd love to, but can we just film it and send it to you? And so it started that about
Instead of doing it live.
Yeah, 5-6 years ago, and we've been doing it every Sunday since. And
part of what had happened though before we got to like PBS and where we are now is I want to say that we were unintentionally doing this, but I don't think that's the right word. But if you look at like what you're doing, Alex, with the CNY Women's Network, okay, you are actively community building. So we basically had already created a built-in community with our friend group and like extended friend group. And so once we kind of put that on TV, on CNY Central and on YouTube, people were like, oh man, like I'd hang out with these guys. They seem cool. Like, and we were taking an organic community that we had just happened naturally. And then now we're building onto it, but it was easy to do because it already existed. So like you're doing, and you're doing it well, but you're thoughtful now in the approach. We're thoughtful in the approach now, very much. I think very much so. At first, we're more like, oh man, like I wonder if people are gonna watch this or like make a joke and like, do you think they're gonna let us say that? And Alex would be like, yeah, dude, no one's watching this anyways.
Yeah, like we didn't have a huge plan to start. We were just gonna make cooking videos. I mean, it was really around YouTube. We weren't expecting the TV thing right away. Like we wanted a TV show. Like
That
that
was
was
a
always the
goal, yeah.
intent, but there was no like formal plan for it. It was just let's start doing it and see what happens. Like Matt, who knows? Like he was I don't think you were a teacher at the time, but he's got to talk in front of the camera. I've never filmed cooking before. Cooking's extremely hard to film. So like
I was teaching. I just started
yeah,
teaching.
there was like a
Yeah.
lot of variables that went into it, and the good thing was just the two of us in his garage and, fighting the flies off. That was like the best we could do, and the heat, when it's hot out or
Almost
the
burning down
rain.
my house. But now people will see Alex's daughter, Amelia, appears a lot, and she's in the half-hour show now in season 3. But this woman yesterday came up to Stephanie and I and was like, "Oh, I love your show." And obviously, since that, she watches the PBS show, and she's like, "The little girl that you bring on the news, your daughter." I'm like, "Actually, that's my partner's daughter." And she's like, "Is he the blue guy?" And I'm like, "The blue guy?" And because Alex's pop-ups are in like a blue box, but like her affiliation with the show was Alex's daughter, who like has appeared maybe 4 or 5 times.
Mhm.
So it's that expansion of that type of thing is really interesting to see. Like I'm sure you've experienced someone be like, "Oh, I was at your event the other day," and you're like, at first you're almost shocked, like, "Oh, you were," and then you're like, "Oh, let's talk more about it." So it's cool that we're experiencing that, but now we're trying to be more thoughtful in the design of that type of
Mhm.
experience.
Hey guys, quick question. Has it been a struggle for you to get the type of attention and support you need in Central New York? Could you use some more growth minded customers that want to support local businesses? At CNY Women's Network, we specialize in helping businesses foster community through dynamic events and media opportunities. As the founder of the CNY Women's Network, I'm particularly passionate about creating opportunities that amplify the voices and missions of business owners in Central New York. Whether you want to host an event with us, advertise across our media channels, or get featured on the Cultivate CNY podcast, there are plenty of ways to partner with the CNY Women's Network. We have so many exciting events and editorial campaigns lined up for 2025 and are actively seeking sponsors that align with our mission and core values. So, if this is resonating and you are ready to take your brand to the next level, email us at media@cnywomensnetwork.com to learn more. All right, let's get back to the show. I would love to know how you've developed the strategy, but I would also like to talk about what's different from season 1 and season 2, especially
Yeah.
because season 2 is coming up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the strategy started with YouTube. I mean, we were really all in on YouTube and trying, and then when TV came on, it changed a little bit, right? There was two different focuses, and it became to getting some sponsorship revenue. So, we just and then social media, obviously, as it continues to grow, it changed a little bit there too. How do we get out on social and make kind of more appearances on Instagram in a small way? And so that's kind of always evolving, and I feel like we always have a strategy and it changes the next day. But from like a cooking
Yeah.
standpoint, we have kind of our roots in what we, New Orleans style cooking and the different styles that we do, and I think we've kept true to that for the most part.
Yeah, I think it's funny that the business growth strategies versus the content strategies, which they're obviously relying on each other. Like Alex just touched on it. My background in cooking is all self-taught stuff from my mom, and spent like probably 11 different times in New Orleans learning that route. But we use like chaos menus, so we'll make tacos, we'll do banh mi burgers, but it all kind of blends in the same kind of messy approach that kind of gives us some grace in the way we do it. But same with the content, right? So we want to create these parties that, and Alex is a big driver in everything we do, like just pushing us forward. Like, hey, let's try to work with the Buffalo Bills. And I was like, that sounds cool, bro, but good luck. And all of a sudden, we're on a phone call with the VP of marketing from the Buffalo Bills saying, yeah, let's do it. So we want to make sure that we're pushing the boundaries from a creative content, but staying true to the roots, like mentioning issues that are important to us. Like I mentioned women's rights or body positivity or whatever it may be, inclusion. So as we talk about those things, not just because it lets us make the dirty jokes that I want to make, but that becomes accepted because we're staying true to that strategy. Every episode talks about, most of them will touch on mental health at least once or twice during the course of it. We have this one called NSFW, which is like not safe for work, and it's an office party. And this party, if you watch the episode, you're going to look at that party scene like, yeah, right. Like that was a real party. Like there were things in there that we just created organically. So on that part, there's that happening. From the growth side of it, how do you get new stations in different markets? How do you generate sales from merchandise? How do you do these things? And we're bumbling along, but looking at the strategy and adjusting each time. So it's really weird because you want to create this thing that feels organic and is authentic, because I think we're continuing to do that really well. On the flip side, how do you manage bookkeeping, which I'm terrible at? Alex is great at, but probably doesn't enjoy
Not
it.
great at.
Well, better at it than I am.
If someone checked our books, we'd probably not be great.
Yeah, if the IRS is listening, you should turn off this
like,
right now.
As you know, though,
Same.
running a small business with just yourself. I mean, it's us. We're lucky to have people that are friends with us that are either helping us out for lower cost or just doing it for free along the way the entire time.
Are you guys planning every event yourselves?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything.
And so we have support from, our buddy Nick, who helps us do anything we ask of him, he does. We have producers from the station that help us. But really, it's about it is about planning like a party. Like in each party, we're basically planning a shoot, a party scene. We have to make sure everybody's actually having fun. Like none of these people are actors.
It's not just planning the content shoot, it's planning a party.
Right.
Like,
and these people do not know how to
manage
act
the garbage.
in front of
Where's this stuff going?
That's
coaching
a lot
the people
of
up.
moving
But we
parts.
also find the community building stuff. Like David Hoyne, we shot in his place multiple times, and he's always asking with the show, offering help. Laura Surway, the same. Or like Josh from K-Rock, like, hey, love what you guys are doing. Like, let me know if I can help out. So that has been useful too. But as you know, people that want to come and help, that's great. But when someone says to you, how can I help? You better have an answer, because otherwise they're like, well, let me know. And then, you're kind of left holding the bag. Not their fault, because you weren't managing that. So we do that. And Alex does a great job. Like, do we need someone for that? And
that's a hard thing, letting someone help. Like when we're doing this and it's your brainchild to start, like, we could throw a lot of parties, but we know that there's things that we need to do to elevate this thing. And not everybody has that. And it's hard. It's hard to get people on board. So you have to have them help in the right way. You don't want to have them help in something that you're going to have to adjust or make them feel like they're not helping. Like, you want them to help. And I think we've learned how to do that we can bring them on. They can help. Like, my wife's always involved in helping recipe development,
crowd control. She's great.
Yeah, like crowd control.
Except when she's the problem.
Yeah, a lot of times she's the problem with too much noise when we're trying to film. But a lot of time I'm like, there's a lot of people here that don't know each other. Like this season especially, we've had new friend groups show up, and it's been the coolest thing, because there's been new friends for us. Someone shows up the next time, they're like, can I bring a friend? And we're like, sure. Like, we need 50 people. Like, that's a lot of people to get on a night when there's a lot of stuff going on. And so they all show up, and they're all standing there, and they're waiting for our command, and we're trying to set up a shoot and doing different things. And so I say to her, my wife, and Stephanie, and we're like, can you guys go mingle with everybody? Make sure everybody's having fun. And they're out there doing that, and what we found after season 2 is we have a lot of people that are now friends, like new friends. We have a whole new set of friends that are part of our group and friends with each other. There's people that are like hanging out outside our thing. It was like, oh, you guys are friends now? Like, that's cool.
Dates have happened from people that met at parties, but the collision of friend groups has created like new friend groups, which is cool.
Yeah.
What does this content event planning process look like?
We're getting more efficient at it. Like, as everybody else that's in the media world, you're kind of learning as you go, and there's not like a set playbook. Like, you can ask ChatGPT, like, how do you draft a storyboard? And you read it and you're like, oh, okay, I knew all that. So for us though, like, we have meetings where we bring in people that we trust that are part of this friend group, and we all throw cool ideas at the board. Then we go back and pick which ones do we think are gonna be the most fun, which can be shootable. And then we think about what are like the names, and how do we work in some type of message into that? What have we shot before? Is it too close to that, right?
The name is important. Like, we had one this season. At the surface, I wasn't totally on board, but I became on board. But the name was Talk Derby to me, and it was a Kentucky Derby party. And we've tried. The only reason I wasn't on board is because we tried not to throw parties around dates. So we changed it to kind of like horse racing theme, right? And so everybody got an idea of what it was, and it was a great party. I mean, but the name itself kind of carried the rest of the way. But there's a lot, like, the food's got to match.
Yeah.
There's what we've learned on season 2, that there's got to be something to do. Like, if we have parties where there's nothing going on, everyone's kind of standing around. So we always have to make some sort of, like, the Bills tailgate, obviously there's stuff to do. Like, there's things happening.
I like how you guys did the bring your top 6 songs.
Yeah.
And you said it kind of created these little micro engagements.
Yep.
That's really interesting. And I feel like you guys probably have a ton of ideas in terms of how to get people to engage in a really fun and authentic way, which, I host networking events, so I'm always looking for new ways to get people to connect.
Well, we had one that it was it was it was an expensive purchase, but we bought a giant ice rooster, like a luge, like an
Nice
alcohol
luge.
luge.
Okay.
Yeah. And we weren't going to because it was inside. We're like, do we need this? And it was the life of the party. I
And
mean, it
budgets are
became the life.
tight.
Do you guys do drinking games?
We don't usually, but we did in the office party.
Yeah, and so one. I mean, do we do drinking games like outside of the episodes? Yes, but we
Not
haven't
on
done.
air.
Not. I mean, one we had some flip cup. But the activity aspect of it, right? Like we have one episode that also I think the name is great. It's called On All Fours, and it's a four-wheeling off-roading episode, which I think it was your idea, somebody's idea in the group, and it was like, well, how do we make a party out of that? So we did, like you post up and all the Jeeps are there and you're like, drinking and eating in the background. So you kind of set it up where you're like, okay, you 6 people are gonna be around this table talking about this, and you're gonna be over there doing that. So in the 20 minutes of while we're setting up the cameras and moving things around, these people are talking and having drinks together. And by the end of later in the middle of the shoot, we're like, all right, everybody got to be quiet now because we're shooting this. But they're having so much fun that the authenticity doesn't even need to be forced. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
You got to break the ice, get people, or get the ball rolling before you start rolling the cameras.
Yes.
Yeah, and honestly, there's like a chemistry they build by having to sit and talk to each other without actually talking. Like they'll sit there and like laugh and talk because they know that it's like hard to do, and so they end up becoming friends through just not even talking sometimes, having to like fake talk at each other, which is.
I'm glad you brought that up, the fake talk at each other, because like so many people, and I'm going to say this, and my wife, I'm sure, maybe I said it before, but she will tell you that she doesn't consider herself to be a great networker, which she is an excellent networker. But I think I'm a pretty good networker too. Nobody likes to do that. Like, I mean, if they do, I'm not one of them, and I can do it. Like, I'm gonna go in a room full of 50 people I don't know, and I want to make sure that I leave here knowing 5 of them. Right? That's just not natural to have a plan. And if people that do that, they're awesome. But what this does is it creates basically a networking function without the pressure of it. Right? It's like you're on a date, but no one knows it's a date, right? And all of a sudden you're like, ooh, I think she's really cute. You're like, man, he's kind of fun. How did this happen? Well, it's kind of like that. Like later on, like, oh, did you know Jimmy? Like, I know, yeah, we brought him, dude. Like,
or they see each other at another party. Like we had, I think at one point in September, like 4 parties in a row, and we were sending out invites, and it was getting confusing. Like, oh, it's this party, and trying to figure out who could come because we needed about like 40 people per party. And so these people kept showing up. And so now as they show up, they recognize each other from the last one. And now, like I said before, they're friends. And it's very cool to watch, even though we have to tell them to be quiet every once in a while.
Yeah. And when you're giving them drinks and things to eat and things like that, it is like pouring gasoline on the fire.
Yeah.
They tend to not quiet down quicker.
Yeah.
I bet
Shocker.
I bet it's hard to wrangle them in at some point, right?
Definitely.
How does one get an invite to these parties? Do you got to be on the inside?
It's pretty easy. We just need your email address. Yeah. No, it's funny because season 1, we were figuring this out, and we were kind of not protective over it, but it was more so on me on the filming side. I was like, we can't have too many people. We have to control this amount of people. And then we learned how to do it a little bit more. So season 2, we were like, we need like 80, 100 people. Like we were at the Landmark Theater, and that was the one I remember going to Matt. And usually he's like wanting to invite more than I do.
Yeah.
Only because I'm like, I need to figure out where all these people go. And the more people I have, the more noise and all this stuff is what I'm thinking about. And I'm like, we need as many people as we could find. Like anybody from the street, just bring them in, because that area to fill was huge. Like we needed, and I don't think we filled it as much as we'd like, but we did.
It looks pretty great.
And now we've realized we want more people. The more the merrier. Like I think the more we can bring in, the better.
I think so too. But to answer your question, I'll give you a clear answer. How do you get on here? Like having your email, like Alex said, like we'd love to have you on there. You know what we're about, and you know a lot of people that are in that network. So a person has to be like into the idea of partying and the reason why you do that. Also be on board with what the brand is. Like there's off-color jokes that are made there. So if that's going to make you uncomfortable, that's not the setting for you. And also the patience to deal with it's weird. Like we're having this great conversation right now, and imagine we were having some drinks or a glass of wine, and then every 10 minutes they're like, okay, you're gonna go stand there for 20 minutes and then come back in here and do that.
Or don't drink that glass of wine.
Yeah.
Don't touch that.
Yeah, you can have
pretend
that crappy seltzer, but don't touch the good thing until then.
They sometimes don't know what they're getting in for, and at the end of it, it's a party. It's an actual party. We usually hang out and have fun. But in the middle, it's like, we had this awesome pool party at Beacon Skiff at their Airbnbs. And it was like the most beautiful house. Everybody was so excited to come, and everybody's standing kind of in their spot. They once they pick their people to talk to, they're not moving, and so they're standing in the spot. And it was like, and Matt,
It was
unfortunately,
an absolute ripper.
Matt has to read a script, get it right, and then in this end of this episode, he's getting tackled into the pool. So all of this is happening, and we have to do it about 6 times, right?
Yeah.
And so he's getting out, has to dry off, and all this stuff's happening. And they're like, "Can we go to the bathroom?" We're like, "Yeah, but hurry up! Like we're trying to shoot again." So they're not knowing that that's what they're getting
you're a
for.
model.
Yeah.
That's what that model life is like.
Yeah, it's an extra. You're an extra in theory. Yeah.
But the aspect, the modeling thing too, we have these shots, and Alex is so great at this, and people work with like Steve and Jeremy get these like really beautiful shots of like a guy and a girl walking down, and it looks like almost like a runway shot to show off like our friends and how the party is. And people aren't used to that. Like it's one thing to get your photo taken for Instagram, like, oh, let's do a selfie, and you click it. Now you've got 3 cameras, lights, and they're having you walk, and then you go back and see yourself. And people, it's a pleasant, I hope, surprise for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, not a lot of people get to sit in front of lights and cameras all the time.
No,
So
not at all.
it's fun for me to work with a lot of the people I work with because we keep things really local here.
Yep.
But I I grew up dancing on a stage, and
You were born into it.
So I know how this world is, and I'm used to it.
Yep.
But I love to see the reaction when people conceptualize themselves on camera. It's really interesting and fun, and I hope they enjoy the experience too.
Part of what we've had them do is talk to. We've given some of them speaking roles, and it's about telling a story. Everything's about storytelling. And so at the end of the day, the themes you asked how we come up with them, it's about stories and things we've done. And so there might have been a time we've done something, whether it's a sports tailgate's easy because we've done a bunch of those. But some of these we had a really awesome Kentucky Derby party at my house back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so like these stories all evolve from
party.
those. And so we get people to come on and sit there and tell a story. And they have to tell the story about 4 times. And they have to tell it to 2 other people with everybody else around listening. And it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. And they're all getting better at it. We picked people that learn how to do it, and then they just keep being involved and hopefully enjoy seeing themselves.
I love confessionals, like on reality television.
Oh, me too.
Like you just put them in like a private room and get them to talk to the camera. I feel like that would be really
We've talked about
interesting.
that before. It
Doing
would be fun.
confessionals.
We dabbled a little bit with that in one of the episodes because we went with that approach for the outro of the Not Safe for Work episode.
Mm.
But as we've built this like universe of different characters in the show, it allows for kind of those type of things to happen. So I think we're getting to the point where we could incorporate. I don't know how we totally incorporate it, but
It would be fun, though.
yeah, it would be awesome.
What has been your favorite episode that you guys have done? Sounds like you've done a lot of really awesome ones.
The Beacon Skiff one was a lot of fun. And the reason is because we were there for 2 days. All of our friends were there. We actually, weirdly enough, we're given rights to these side-by-side ATVs on the property the night before, which was great. Like we were going to use them in a scene the next day where we were going to go get some vodka at their distillery and stuff. And they're like, oh, they're there. Keys are in them. We're like, okay. So we're like, we're just going to drive them around the property a little bit. But we ended up playing hide and seek in the apple orchard with the drone. We had a drone in the air, and it was like the most fun because we were alone in this apple orchard. It was so much fun.
It was
and
fun.
honestly, separate from that, it was just like we were 2 days at a beautiful house with our friends. Everybody was there. It was exactly the theme of the show, is that bring your friends and family together. So, and most of them, we have their day shoots, right? Like we might have a 4-hour shoot and then we're done, or we'll hang out after for a little bit. But the fact that we were there for 2 days with everyone was awesome. And it's a pretty awesome episode.
What was the best one?
I think the
Final.
work party was awesome. The Not Safe for Work.
So
It just came together. Like there's this movie called Office Party, and I sent it to the crew. Said, listen, I know we're not going to get to this level, but this is what I want it to look like at the end. And I don't think we got there, but it would have taken destroying the office.
that was a truly awesome party and an awesome episode. But my answers are 2 different ones actually, but those were both obviously
Office
a lot of
Christmas
fun.
Party. That was the name.
That was the movie, yeah. So my favorite one from season 2 actually to watch is an episode called The French Maid, and it's about French cooking and an intimate like dinner for like 6. I love the food, and I love how the episode came out showcasing French cooking, and the story at the end was Alex's wife April and my wife Stephanie and I talking. When I watched that from front to back, though, it for me it really captures the idea of the food being a part of it, but also like how close knit our friend group is. So from a delivered product perspective, that might be my favorite. But my favorite experience actually was the Bills game, but not because of the tailgate, though that was awesome. We were there for a couple days, and the night before we had gone to set up, and we were in Airbnb, and our tight-knit crew went out we're gonna we'll have a drink or two, and all of a sudden people are doing karaoke, like Alex is singing that Sheryl Crow part of the song Picture or Photograph.
I was signed up for it, yeah,
so
without knowing.
We're having that awesome time, and then the next day we show up, and you're in the middle of mayhem. Like, we're filming with people, hundreds of people we don't know in the background. We are also partnering with a friend of our shows, the Buffalo Food Slut, who's this big influencer. So we had to dip in through her party, and it was one of those days where I felt like I was having so much fun and kind of in control of what I'm supposed to be doing. But every couple seconds, I'd be like, how is this a thing? Like, she's like dipping her hand into this giant thing of wings, and she's like, let's do a picture for this. I'm like, is this my job right now? Because this is unreal.
That was an awesome shoot.
Yeah, she's awesome. I love her. She just
great.
moved to New York City.
Yeah.
I saw her post last week. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
like there was a scene at the end of that where we weren't sure what the outro was going to be, where Matt kind of signs off, and all I wanted it to be was Bills fans chanting like you'd expect. And so we're gonna stage this, and the game was starting, and we're like, we got to go in quick. So we went over to the area where everybody's walking in, and we just filmed it. Like, security guards were like, yeah, go for it.
I don't know how you pulled that
and
off.
we were walking backwards through a crowd of people while and random people are coming up behind him chanting and singing the song.
Thousands of people are coming
and they're
by.
yelling in my, I got a couple middle fingers in the camera. Like, it was just so much fun that was just such a cool experience, because, you don't get to do that.
It was almost like euphoric, like that adrenaline spike as this is all going on. Then afterwards, we're like, the type of thing where we're having a beer and everything afterwards, and your arms around each other like, oh, man, that was awesome. And you're kind of like, yeah, but it might look absolutely terrible. Like, is this going to be good or not? But
it was fun. Whether it looks good is a different story.
You never know how it's going to look on camera.
No. We've gotten more confidence as it went on, but yes, it's like the day ends and you're like, I'm not glad it's over, because it's a lot of fun, but like, the work is over. Now we have to hope it came out
At
good.
least you guys get to celebrate after. Like, it's not all work. You get to put the camera down and enjoy the party you just created.
Definitely. Yeah. Which sometimes I tell people, and it's not a lie. It's probably 10% of why we do this. Like, I one of my favorite things ever is feeling like we've accomplished something, and then everybody afterwards is like, just now everybody's kind of amped up, a little bit of an adrenaline spike, like thinking about what we just did after these scenes. So, and every time we're like, okay, we're going to wrap this up early, but the not safe for work party, we were there till like 2:30 or so. It got a little rowdy.
Which ended with smashing the ice sculpture in the road.
Yeah, it was
just because why not?
Why not?
Yeah, well, I needed to leave the building.
That would be what I would want to do. I don't know why, but
well, we knew pretty quickly we couldn't leave it inside at the office, so we're like, we got to get it outside, and we smashed it.
But that's the thing about some of the stuff that we do that you just captured, Alex, is like, I don't know why. There's a lot of things, like, we did an off-roading episode, and my wife and I have gone off-roading before, but one of our friends who was with us, and she plays a pivotal role in that episode before, she's like, this is so stupid. Like, boys are idiots. Like, we're going to drive around and get muddy and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's right. And she's like, I'll do it because we'll have fun. But she goes, this is stupid. And then she is the one jumping into the car, like ripping through puddles. And like, she's like, oh my God, this is awesome. We're like, it's so stupid that it's fun. I don't know how else to say that.
How many opportunities do we as adults get to just play and just be like ridiculous and just have just truly just act and not think.
Yeah.
That was the premise behind the pool party, is that everybody when you're in elementary school, you look forward to the summer, all your friends' pool parties. And as adults, you don't get to do that. Like, yeah, you don't really go to pool parties. Like, you'll go to your friend's house and hang out, but you don't get to do it in that way. And so that was the premise.
No one does cannonball contests anymore.
Right.
No, none.
Like, let's bring it back.
Our group, though, we did do that. Like, let's do a cannonball contest. All of our friends, like Kevin and these guys, you ask them to do it, they're going to do it. Nick, who's like a big part of everything that we do, is like our go-to catch-all, can do everything. And we're like, yo, do you want to go? Like, we were catching punts from the Syracuse University punt returner, and the day before we're having some beers. I'm like, so are you up for this tomorrow? He goes, yeah, we'll figure it out. Like, how often do you get the chance to do that? Or we're kicking field goals with them, and he's always like, all right, let's go. So I love that attitude.
And those are the perfect people for people like you guys, like people like us, to be around, or the people that are, we'll figure it out. Because you need that. You need that kind of, those ride or die people that are down for anything, but you need that flexibility and that space for impulsivity and opportunities.
Yeah. As long as you have your own consent and the consent of others, it's about being uncomfortable. Like, I mean, the best way you can learn to do fun new things is like that nervous excitement, not like unhealthy fear, but like, oh man, like, am I gonna catch this? Or like, is this gonna taste gross? Or like, what are we gonna do with a giant ice rooster, right? But it's being willing to take a swing at that, and I think that's what goes hard.
And running a business is hard, as you know, and like if they can't pivot with you, or they're always judging every move you make, or like this isn't gonna work, this show isn't good, this idea is not, it's just it deflates you a little bit, and you need someone around you that's gonna say, we'll figure it out, like you said, and that's what keeps you going, honestly.
Yeah. Especially if you're like the first one that's trying to do the thing you're trying to do, or that is doing the thing you're trying to do. You really need to be surrounded by people that are, I'm not going to say that you need to be surrounded by yes men, but you need to be surrounded by people that believe in you and have faith in you and
that
just keep things positive.
Yeah.
There's like nothing more draining than working with someone that's cynical and, thinking of everything that could go wrong.
You're going to get those people anyways, right? Like we have people that will comment on videos or send emails. Like this guy wrote an email once that was like, I've watched every episode twice, and if I wanted a bunch of bad recipes with a side of cliche jokes, I'll tune in again. I'm like, all right, bro, you watch it twice. Keep watching, But you're going to get that anyway. So, that self-confidence erodes naturally. Like, I don't know about you, but I suffer from imposter syndrome, as a lot of people do from time to time, right? I think that's natural. So to your point, having a crew that can help understand and recognize that, like Alex and I will have spirited debates on like, should we do this or that? Like one of the episodes we wrestled on was awesome, called Float On, which is like a kayaking, boating type episode. Anyways, though, like it was a real challenge and it was dangerous, and we go back and forth on it. Other people are like, that sounds fun. Instead of saying no, they're like, it's like, yes, if we've got a safety thing. Yeah, if we can add that into it. And I think the yes, if versus no, because is a great starting point. And eventually you might realize you can't do it because the yes, if is yes, if the weather isn't, you know what I mean? So it's getting down that path with the right people, like you said, Alex.
That's the only way it'll stay fun, Otherwise it just becomes work.
Right.
So you mentioned something about almost burning your house down. What is like one of the biggest like disasters you've encountered through the show?
Almost burning my house down isn't even in the top 5 biggest disasters that we almost experienced. That was early on. Like we were making candied bacon and on a grill, but we wanted to set some up in the kitchen, and after we were done shooting and it worked, we're patting ourselves in the back, and thankfully my wife was out of town because there's black smoke billowing out of the window. We forgot about it. We forgot that it was in there. We had people get run over by kayaks. We've had I don't know.
There's like, we were lucky enough to have a lot of these local lofts around here let us shoot, and so which we take care of. We try to be respectful as much as it's probably, but when you're cooking, sometimes it's like hard. So in a couple of those lofts, we've had incidents with stuff burning.
Oh, and tripping breakers.
Yeah, we've been worried that like, we're going to set off an alarm and everybody's going to have to evacuate this building that lives here. And luckily we haven't got that deep into it. But the floating episode that he talked about was probably like, it's at a point when you realize we're hanging out with friends to now we're actually filming, and this is like a serious production. We have a show. We have to take things a little bit more seriously inside. And we're always safe with it, but the floating one was one that we weren't quite ready for. We went on a test scout.
First.
Was it like the floating raft thing that like a huge floating raft?
It was a bunch of tubes like tied together
tubes
on a very dangerous river at the time. And I've been on this river many times, the Salmon River up north, and like you go on and the water was just high that day. And
he's telling me, he's like, I'm like, dude,
I told all of them, and we brought our crew,
rafting.
No cameras, just our crew, and we're like, we're gonna go and scout this thing and pick out where we're gonna shoot. And I was like, guys, you have to like move, paddle a little bit. You can't like just lay back and relax. And
it's not a lazy river.
It wasn't that day. And I don't know what they thought, but I tried to explain to them so many times. About 2 minutes in, not even 2 minutes, we crashed hard into a tree.
The rest of the day was missing a flip-flop.
They all lost all their stuff. I'm like, I told you not to bring that stuff.
The beers were still there though.
Yeah. So, and then the rest of the time was like the adventure to like escape back to our car. And then we're like, man, how are we going to film this thing?
But it was an awesome day, and we should have, like, you could have walked away from that being like, we can't do this. And we're like, okay, now we know how bad it can be. Let's do it. And that was an awesome experience.
It's the crew, like the crew we have is experienced. They know what they're doing. They're safe. And so because of all that, we trust them that we know we can get into this with them, and they'll tell us to.
But
We trust that they'll tell us that we shouldn't do this.
And most of them do. But we also have a guy who does our audio and drone stuff. This guy Todd, who's an awesome human being, and he's a true professional, and he's a veteran, and he's had to also be like basically our medic at multiple shoots. We've had some injuries where it's like, thank God Todd is here.
Yes.
Thank God Todd's here.
Yeah, thank God for
Where
Todd.
would we be without Todd?
Yeah.
Alex, as a producer and director, where do you get your inspiration from? I know you mentioned the Office Party movie was a source of inspiration.
Yeah, that was
for
like a quick inspiration for the craziness I wanted the party. For cooking shows, like there's just so many like. I obviously we're a big fan of Guy Fieri and the stuff he does and how he helps the restaurant community is such a big part of that. For the look of it, like there's so many. Maliaz, a show that we watch a lot. The Kitchen is a very cool show because it's half reality. What we really want to do is be half cooking, half reality. We want it to be a lifestyle show more so. And so there's not a lot of shows out there that are like that. And so we're having to pull little pieces from a lot of different shows. But cooking itself, what is it? Delicious Miss Brown. Like she throws parties and she throws our type of parties, but they don't show a lot of the party. And so we're like, how can we continue to show more of this party? Because at the end of the day, like in a perfect world, we'd love all of our friends to have their own accounts that people follow and they follow the storyline and they know this person and they want to follow more of them. And we want them to engage with us because any show you watch, whether it's, real or fiction, it's like, you engage with that group of people, and it could be a complete fake show and you see them in person, you realize, oh, they're not that real person, but like we want that to be our show where people see our show and engage with us and say, I want to hang out with them, or that's my friend group. And so it's very important that we continue to show that off. And so there's a lot of shows that do that, but cooking wise, those are the kind of main ones.
I feel like your show would have been perfect on Viceland.
Oh yeah.
But I believe Viceland just dissolved just like a couple years ago, right?
Like Vice News, Vice.
Yeah. That was such a good network because the shows on that network were more cutting edge, more fun, and a little explicit.
And authentic.
And authentic. They're very authentic, which made it so entertaining.
Authentic is hard. People say it a lot. We say it a lot. We try to be as true as possible to it, and we believe we are. And the jokes we make, the name of our show, like everything about it, we've kind of held up. Like we're not changing this. We're not doing this. This is who we are.
And we make choices based on that.
Yeah. And it's hard because like Matt mentioned On All Fours is a really good name. We think it's a good name, but like,
a great name. Yeah.
We'll see if it gets approved when the episodes get uploaded.
I feel
but
like
you
your
never
names
know
are
that.
really good. Like all the names that you guys have said, I'm like,
there's like my daughter thinks, and for the wrong reason, but thinks Slippery When Wet's our pool party episode. She thinks it's hysterical. And I'm like, yeah, it's funny, I guess, but it's not, it's just, it's these double entendres. And at the end of the day, we were like, we're talking about this, and there's a lot of people, we have an older audience at times on PBS, and there's a lot of old people love dirty jokes, and they come to us after and they're like, I got every one of those. We're like, oh, good.
Yeah.
We don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I'm sure it's refreshing.
Yeah.
Especially to see it on PBS. Like, oh, finally, humans being humans.
Yep.
Yeah. We get a lot of that. And that's also the thing too, about when you talk about mental health or we're talking about sex positivity, then you make these jokes. People come up like, oh, that's such a great joke. But if you didn't, preempt that with who you are, then the joke is offensive or insulting. You know what I mean? Like one of the things like, oh, my therapist said LOL. And like, if you didn't actually see a therapist, that joke doesn't play. You know what I mean? So it's the authenticity. It has to be really there. It can't be just a word that you're throwing. It's like when people say, this epic sandwich. I don't know, man. Like I've eaten a lot of great sandwiches and none of them have been epic to me, right? Epic to me is like the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan. That's epic, But the authenticity, I think we actually are using that word correctly. And that makes me happy.
Is there anyone that you would love to have on the show that you haven't worked with yet?
So you're probably going to guess what my answer is, but I think you're wrong. I think
I'm sure he's in your top
I'm a big
5.
fan of The Rock, but I wouldn't pick him. Obviously,
if The Rock came in right now, it's like, yo, you want me to show you? No, sorry, dude.
Yeah, if he's listening, no. I think the last episode, the French Maid that we filmed, Matt used a lot of Anthony Bourdain and Julia Child recipes. And I think because of the PBS connection, it would be, how amazing would it be to have them on as
Oh,
actual guests?
yeah.
Obviously we can't, but
Yeah.
the old school chefs, we had Mariana Esposito, who's the longest running TV chef, and we had her on a podcast, and we were lucky enough to meet her in person, and someone like that would be awesome. I mean, obviously the big celebrities and stuff would be cool, but that would be closer to what we're trying
Yeah,
to
I
do.
mean, Anthony Bourdain and Julia Childs would be great, and may they rest in peace. Another person who can rest in peace, which would be awesome, would be like Amy Winehouse. Fits our vibe, but people like I don't know, like I think about he's dead too. I gotta stop thinking with that. People like Old Dirty Bastard, or there's different people that I think like fit this authenticity, but have this coolness factor that we don't have, that I'd like to have, but would have fun at our parties. Like I have no doubt that if like Method Man and Lady Gaga were at the Not Safe for Work party, they weren't going to stay for 5 minutes. They'd at first be like, "What is this?" And then all of a sudden they're playing Flip Cup, or like, you know what I mean? Like, so those type of people I would love to have.
I'm
So
seeing
if you know their
Charlie
number,
XCX,
Charlie
like
XCX would
Brat
be
Summer,
awesome for
yeah.
the show. Yeah, one of my students talked about her favorite quote was the Brat Summer isn't just cocaine and cigs, and I'm like, it shouldn't just be that to the student, you know. But that type of attitude is both fun and also like empowering at the same time. Like they come into a situation like Wu-Tang Clan is something that I love so much, but they'll talk about coming through a hard time and finding good people. Like, you know, they say a sick ass click and go all out, but those people believe that. They just make it sound, they make life sound cool. And that's what we're trying to do.
Who are some of your favorite creators? I know we were talking about podcasts right before we started recording.
It's a tough question. I have so many. I mean,
Is there
there's so
anyone
many.
you want to emulate, like as a creator yourself?
My friend Jeremy Walker. No, I'm just joking. He would
Actually,
like that, though. He's a very
he's a
good
pretty
creator.
awesome creator.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's just like the problem right now is there's a lot of YouTube out there, and I love some of the YouTube stuff. Like, I don't watch a whole lot of it. Like, I watch a lot of YouTube kids, so I don't want to emulate all that. I hate to admit to that. I watch a whole lot of Play-Doh and slime videos, but
I think, you know, for me, there like, yeah, someone I would want to emulate actually is much more in the spirit of the message than we are, and isn't like I like to think of our like canvas as, I mean, this sounds bad, alcohol and unhealthy food, right? It's a way to bring people together. But like, I think about Mel Robbins across the board. Like, when you read her books or hear her, my wife's a huge fan of hers, and she's kind of who turned me on to it. It's not fake. Like, this person believes it. So, to me, it's more something like that. Like when you see someone that is doing and creating content, we mentioned Madeline, the Buffalo Food Slut. She's someone that, like, when you watch that and you hang out with her, that's the same human being. And she genuinely cares. Like, we were originally working a project and there was the awful shooting in Buffalo. And she's like, hey guys, I can't do that. I got to do this thing the next day to like support people. So to me, it's more so like if someone's really totally committed to it, that's the type of thing that I want to be seen like from my end.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Mel Robbins too.
She's legit. If you're listening, Mel, yo, we're gonna party next year.
That would be goals.
That would.
I better get an invite to that party.
You have a standing invite to every episode we shoot in season 3.
I can be really fun, guys. I swear I'm not always so buttoned up. So get me a martini and we'll talk.
we have some crazy episode ideas that we haven't got a chance to discuss yet, but they're in there.
We have a meeting coming up where it's our crew, and we're going through all of these episode ideas. I promise you'll be invited to that, and we can work a martini into that.
Okay.
But some of the ideas
Perfect.
we're dying
Once we
to-
get a little bit of confidence, we can shoot that. Then it's
Yeah.
dangerous. 'Cause
Yeah.
Well, I was just about to ask, like, what's next? I know we have season 2 that's going to be airing on March 25th, right?
Yeah, so it's such a weird cycle because we've spent all this time on season 2 and no one's even seen it yet, and it just is like, and as we're switching focus to season 3, season 2 hasn't even aired yet, and it's going to air, and then it airs kind of all over the country, but in different times, and so throughout the year it will be airing for the first time a lot of times, and so it's just such a weird thing that after we're done with this, we want to promote that. We want to show off a lot of the stuff, but we filmed behind the scenes on season 2 that we didn't do on season 1, which is really cool. You haven't actually even seen a lot of it. It's a lot of awesome
I
footage.
kind of don't want to see it.
Yeah. But season 3 is obviously, we're in the planning stage. We're in the planning stage of how to continue to grow our brand on different networks, Instant Claire Network, while staying on PBS. But you know, some episodes, one just right off the bat that we've joked about many times is hot air balloon episode. And
Have you guys ever been in a hot air
No, and
balloon?
No.
I don't think I still want to be. So
It was your idea.
I know
It was your
It was a
idea.
joke idea that's gained some steam, but like it's the party after you land. So it's not like the party in the
I think it's party in the air. Like
Yeah.
you're cooking like a hot dog in the flame on there. you
yeah,
know?
and that was why I don't want to go on it because I don't want Matt messing with the flame. The flame's
don't-
for flying, not for
yeah.
cooking.
The flames are like way up here too, so you're not gonna.
You need a really, really long stick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna need a long stick.
No, like
Just char it.
we have a lot of we're expanding our brand a little bit with some design work we're doing, bringing in some mascot into it, which will be a lot of fun. We're expanding our merch. We're looking at a cookbook. We've been working on this cookbook for a while.
Yeah.
It just with this show, what we've learned is it takes so much of our time, while having other jobs that we haven't been able to focus on all these other things, and these other things are important. So we want to continue just to expand the brand, and try to get into these other cities too. Like we're already in there airing, we need to have a presence in there. And so whether it's talk shows and things like that we want to be on, and we just
Do a
need
little
to
tour.
expand our presence.
Yeah.
Do a
So
little Spatchcock Funk
little
tour,
tour.
party
you-
tour.
Which would be
you
awesome.
just a party tour would be awesome.
You would have
You-
to throw a party in each.
you can
city.
come
You
on
can't
that,
just
too.
do
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
show. You just,
Well, you were saying before about like, you don't realize how much where the time goes and you're putting it all into it before we started recording. So it's like Alex said, building relationships with those cities we're in. So like Denver, the PBS station in Denver, they love the show, their community does. So how can we get more engaged with that? But our goal is really to blow this thing up while staying authentic to where we are. So we've got a lot of things, public relations stuff. We've got a lot of things in the works that the machine is already moving forward. So it's just staying buckled in and making sure that we're still having fun doing it, which I mean, I am.
Mhm.
So
and honestly, slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
That's the only way to keep it authentic too. Is like rapid growth isn't always good. You
Right.
know, a lot of weird things can happen. You can sell out.
true.
And you don't want that. So
Definitely don't want that.
We-
but
we-
patience isn't something is not my strong
me
suit.
neither.
We were talking
So,
early
who am I
on
to
too,
talk?
is if we were just to go right from where we started to Food Network or something, obviously it would be amazing. But
Mhm.
there'd be like a huge learning curve. Like the way networks do stuff is so different than maybe the way we're doing stuff now. And so the opportunity to be on WCNY locally and work our way up and learn, like we've never made a TV show before. And so there's
Yeah.
so many, I mean, just to deliver the show is like a whole full-time job in itself, after it's done being filmed. And it's crazy. There's so many things to learn. And so we're lucky to have the opportunity to kind of step our way up versus go right to the top. Although that would be good too.
That would be good.
We'll take that.
Yeah,
It's so inspiring though to see people that are here in Central New York doing something, that's spanning across the whole country and something so cool and interesting and creative.
We haven't really mentioned it, but the community, like we're trying to show off this Central New York community. Like it's important to us. Obviously in other areas, we want to kind of be representative of the food and the party styles in those areas. But like we've been so lucky, like the Landmark Theater, Beacon Skiff, we mentioned, Acropolis Realty, where we filmed
Heritage Hill.
Heritage Hill. Like we just ask and they're like, sure. Like,
How can we help?
Yeah, I mean, it's like we have these scoop scenes, we call them, and they're like every season one. So you asked the difference between season 1 and 2. Season 2, they got a little bit more out there and aggressive than season 1, but like it'd be like going and getting an ingredient. We need this for this dish, and we're gonna go out and pick it up somewhere. Season 2, they just got off the charts. Like we actually got the ice rooster, and Matt learned how to ice carve.
Like with a
or carve ice,
chainsaw.
yeah.
We're like wearing beekeeper suits, like dealing
And
with,
so
like,
we're calling
bees.
these places and we're like, hey, we have this show. And, whether they've heard of it or not, they're like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Come, do whatever
Yeah.
you want. Take over our place. And it's just like the coolest experience because everybody is here so open
Mhm.
to doing that for us. I don't know that we would have that in a lot of other cities. I think
Yeah.
there'd be like the
But-
welcoming nature of this community has been helpful.
And we want to champion that community, like Alex said. Like Charlie Miller does it great for the food scene here, and you do it for the women business leaders and just women in general in there. So we want to basically kind of take a lead from y'all and how that works, but we're also trying to do it externally, right? So we work with Visit Syracuse. So we throw a Low Country Boil, which is all Southern-based recipes, which are, I made up the recipes. Of course, I think they're really good, but the drink was good at least. But then
No one left sick.
shooting that, yeah, that's true. Everyone survived it. But like, how do we showcase the stuff that's here to other places? And I think season 2 does it really well.
Mm.
Putting Syracuse on the map, guys. That's what this is all about.
That's the hope.
That's why I created this podcast, is to just, provide a platform for people to thrive and be
Mhm.
seen.
And celebrate, right? Celebrate this great stuff that's here.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, I remember like graduating high school, which wasn't that long ago, honestly, if you think about it. It was like 2016. And I just remember the narrative that was, I graduated from Liverpool. So I've been here my
Go
whole life,
Warriors.
born and raised. And I remember like thinking that if I didn't get out, that I would like, it would be over for me. You know what I mean? And
Same.
and then things didn't go as planned and I had to drop out of school and move back home. And I remember how devastated I was because I felt like my fate was just like it
You
was
were
shot.
trapped.
And
Yeah.
then I started a business when I was 19 here and built a book of business. And over the years, you know, that narrative has started to change. And obviously now, because of all of the amazing things happening for this region, it's definitely changed, I think. But
Yeah.
I'm so passionate about just like helping everyone in central New York have access to opportunities that allow them to kind of level up and like raise the bar for what goes on here and what kind of people are building their legacies here. And I mean, if you can't find a way to make it happen here, I think like why would you go to New York City or LA and try to make it happen there? Because
It'd be
I've
so
had the
much
same
harder.
experience with,
Agreed.
you know, reaching out and it's 9 out of 10, it's a yes.
Yep.
Like the people are excited to see things like this happening here and they're more than willing to help. So if you want to start something, this is your sign to start it.
Agreed.
Well, it was a pleasure, guys. I know season 2 is coming out, so plug the show. How can people find you guys? How can people collaborate? How can people sponsor if they want to get involved?
Yeah, so March 25th is on PBS, WCNY locally here.
Tuesday nights.
Yeah, Tuesday nights at 9. And season 2 is 10 episodes, so it's going to re-air. So if you miss it, but it's always on YouTube as well. We're gonna once they come out, they'll be on YouTube, Spatchcock Funk. Instagram, follow us on Instagram at Spatchcock Funk as well. You know, our website, you can find us there. Matt, or our emails, Matt and Alex at Spatchcock Funk. Pretty easy.
Yep.
We're always down to do anything. If
We're open
if
to
there's
any
party
idea.
ideas. You know what? We've got a lot of recipe ideas. We've now got a lot of party ideas. We get them from our internal group, but not from. I would love to hear some of them because, you know, I have a list about 30 for season 3.
I do too.
And there's so many ideas out there.
Yeah. We once thought like, oh, remember you and I were talking one point like, oh, we're gonna run out of ideas, and it turns out we are not gonna run out of ideas.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
But share ideas, reach out to us. We're open to collaborate.
Be part of our party scenes.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to see you guys do a collab with like Barstool Syracuse or like Barstool Buffalo.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that would be a good
That's
collab.
a good fit, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're looking to do more. Matt mentioned the shoe punter. We have this whole. We're revamping our social media right now. We're creating new content. When creating all this other content, it's very hard to create consistent social media content, as you know. It's just a whole nother thing. And so we have a plan now. We're doing it. We're moving forward. But one of the ideas was to collab with a bunch of athletes and show regular guys trying to do their jobs. And we had this. It's really around our friend Nick, who says when he's drinking, he says he can do whatever these athletes are doing. And so we've done one, we've done two, and he has not passed either of those.
Get
but
that liquid courage in you.
Yeah, but we there's a whole premise because people all talk about this kind of stuff. Oh, I could do that. Like that's not that hard. And so we want to have a social media series where we collab with different universities and stuff around that, which would be a lot of fun too.
Yeah, lots of fun, lots of resources around here, and yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys do in 2025. I'm looking forward to season 2.
And you're going to be in season 3. Let's go.
With a martini.
Think of some
in
stories
hand.
to tell. Yes,
I will. I have some stories. My days are not.
Awesome.
My days are still happening. I think, even though all I do is work now, but I could use a good party.
Yeah,
so
you deserve it.
I'll take you guys up on that.
Cool.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. It was an absolute pleasure, and hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you for tuning in to Cultivate CNY. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you left us a review and make sure you're subscribed to the show. Speaking of the show, if you or someone you know wants to be our next guest on Cultivate CNY, you can submit an application. Just click the link in the show notes. And if you are a business owner that's interested in getting in front of our audience, we're looking for sponsors. So if you want to learn more about sponsorship opportunities, you can go ahead and shoot us an email at podcast@cnywomensnetwork.com, and I will take care of you there. That's it for now, and we'll catch you next Monday.